morning and welcome back to another lesson in our series of lessons on English literature. We have already completed 3 lessons on Greek mythology. Today's lesson is on ancient Greek philosophers. Of course, I'm not going to talk about all the ancient Greek philosophers. I am going to talk about 3 major philosophers from ancient Greece. You know who they are? And you may ask, so why should we learn Greek philosophers? Why should we know them? You'll get the answer at the end of this lesson. Shall we continue? Okay. Ancient Greek philosophers. There are chiefly 2 important Greek civilizations. I mean, ancient Greek civilizations. What were they? Hellenic civilization, which lasted between 510 BCE, Common Era, before Common Era. Now you know, BC is changed, okay, into BCE, means before Common Era, and AD is changed to CE, Common Era. Okay. Second one, Hellenistic, not Hellenic, Hellenistic civilization. That is between 323 and 146 BCE. Let us see what they are. Before I explain further what these 2 civilizations are, I just want to bring a notice how this term Hellenic was applied to Greek civilization. The term Hellenic comes from the ancient Greek word Hellas, which was the original term to refer to what is now called Greece. So, Hellas is the word that Hellenistic derived from. Okay, that's why we call Hellenic civilization, which means Greek civilization. But earlier, in those days, this word Hellas was used to refer to Greece. That's why Hellenic civilization means Greek civilization. Okay. Now, Hellenic civilization was between, as I have already told you, 510 BCE and 323 BCE. That was the year when Alexander the Great died. Okay, so Greek civilization, which started in 510 BCE and entered in 323 BCE with the death of Alexander the Great, is known as Hellenic civilization. Okay. Next one, Hellenistic civilization. That was the civilization from 323 BCE to 146 BCE, when the Romans started to conquer the Greek world piece by piece. Okay. Now you may ask, what is the difference? The difference is this. Hellenic civilization was purely Greek civilization. Means their culture, their beliefs, their philosophy, their superstitions, their values. These were the main content of that civilization. But when Alexander went about conquering a major part of the world, Greek civilization was also carried with him. And whichever country or whichever kingdom was conquered, he appointed his generals. And sort of Greek language and also Greek civilization and values were also imparted to the people of that region. And from these regions also, certain values were carried away by the Greek. So that's why we call it Hellenistic civilization. Means a mixture of Hellenic civilization and the civilization that was a sort of imitated from other cultures. That is known as Hellenistic civilization. Okay. Now, the period before Hellenic civilization, that is before 510 BCE, is generally known as Archaic period. Archaic period. Say it's something between say 1200 BCE and 510 BCE. Have you understood this? And the Hellenic civilization was also known as the classical age of Greece. It was during that time many renowned philosophers lived. And now we are going to look at some of those philosophers. Remember, keep in your mind the difference between Hellenic and Hellenistic civilization was asked by Kerala University a couple of years ago for MA English entrance examinations. So these are very, very important. The difference between Hellenic and Hellenistic civilizations. Now you know, Hellenic civilization between 510 and 323 BCE. That is until the death of Alexander the Great. And Hellenistic civilization began from 323 BC and ended by 146 BCE when the Romans started conquering the Greek world. Okay, let us look at some of the most important philosophers. First one was, as you know, Socrates. Socrates. He lived between 470 and 399 BCE. That is during the Hellenic civilization. He is considered the father of Western philosophy. Important from the examination point of view, please. Now, what was his contribution to philosophy? You may have heard about Socrates' dialectic method, or popularly known as Socratic method. What is that method? This is a method in which the interlocutors, more than one or two participants in a dialogue, in an argument, they keep on arguing, asking questions and answering questions, again asking, answering questions. This process was used to arrive at truth. And this method is known as Socratic method, or in Greek it is known as Elenchus. Elenchus, remember that. If this is asked for in your examination, then you must be able to say what it is. Elenchus means this Socratic method or the dialectic method. Okay. Next one. This method, Socratic method, was applied to arrive at moral truths, like what is virtue, what is good, what is justice. No, the participants would just go on asking questions. Socrates, for example, always asked questions from his disciples, his followers, and when they gave an answer, he would ask another question. And the process went on until they arrived, some kind of consensus on a particular topic. Is that clear? Okay. This method was first described by Plato in his Socratic dialogues. As you may know, and if you don't know, please learn now. Socrates never wrote anything. He never wrote anything. He only taught his disciples verbally. He didn't write down his thoughts. who then wrote down his thoughts? His most brilliant disciple, follower, Plato. Okay. Now, we will come to Plato. He lived, as you know, between 424 and 348 BCE. He was a very celebrated ancient Greek philosopher. What are his major works? We look at a few. Why? Because it is important from literature point of view as well. The Republic, written in 10 books, and it is his philosophical manifesto. Almost all of his major philosophical ideas are contained in this famous book. Okay. This is presented, in the form of a dialogue between Socrates and three different interlocutors, three different participants in the dialogue. And what does he do here? He's inquiring into the notion of what is an ideal community and who is an ideal individual in that ideal community. What features should an ideal state have, and what virtues, what qualities should an ideal individual have in that ideal community? Okay, this is one of the themes of the book, The Republic. Now, what interests us here is Plato's reaction to poets and poetry. In books 3 and 10 of the Republic, Plato addresses this problem of the poets and poetry. Let us see. He argues that the poets are imitators of the world, rather imitators of imitation. I will explain that further. And therefore, far from the truth. He uses this phrase, twice removed from reality or truth. Now, let me explain. In Plato's philosophy, he has a concept of the world of forms or the world of ideas. According to Plato, there is a world which has the ideal, the original things that we see in this world. That means whatever the visible world offers us is nothing but a shadow, a reflection of the original in the world of ideas. For example, suppose I take a rose flower, and this rose flower itself is very beautiful. According to Plato, this is just an imitation, a reflection, a shadow of the ideal rose flower in his world of forms. Now, what does a poet do? A poet describes a rose flower in his poem, for example. And then this description is an imitation of another imitation. This flower itself is an imitation of the real thing. And when the poet imitates this, it's an imitation of the imitation. Hence, it is far from reality, far from truth. That's why he says poetry is twice removed from reality. Good. Next one. Then he makes some other charges against the poets. According to him, he says the poets, always corrupt the minds of the youth and incite some passions, some negative passions which Plato didn't approve of. And poetry doesn't, according to him, promote the faculties of reason This is done by philosophy according to him. And hence, the poets must be banished from his ideal republic. That was Plato's, objection to poets and poetry. So, remember this from the examination point of view, very, very, very important. In book 10, he banishes poetry and poets from the ideal city or the state of the republic. Okay. But we must also understand, Plato didn't actually completely banish all kinds of poetry and poets. He advocated poetry that could promote virtues of the soul. Poetry that could really help a society to cultivate certain moral values. In other words, poetry and poets who were didactic, who helped in improving one's moral status, moral life, was accepted by Plato. Okay. Another work of Plato, I'll go over it quickly, is the Apology. Now, what is this? It is an account of his master, his teacher, Socrates' unsuccessful defense in front of 500, in front of a jury of around 500 Athenian citizens. Now, what was the charge made against Socrates? The charges were, first, Socrates corrupted the minds of the youth in Athens. Second one was that he didn't approve of the Greek gods and goddesses, and he simply tried to teach people things in the clouds. That's philosophy. And again, he was charged with teaching atheism, that there is no God, and again accused of trying to make the worst views look the best views. So these were the accusations, the charges made against Socrates. And he, before his death, defended himself in front of 500 Athenian citizens, jury. But finally he was found guilty by the majority and condemned to death. Now, coming to Socrates, in fact, when he was imprisoned, Plato, his most brilliant student and other followers of Socrates, went to him and pleaded with him to escape from the prison. He had the opportunity, but he refused to run away from there. He told them that he would willingly go to the gallows. Okay, now, you know the story. He was given a glass of poisonous drink, and he willingly took it and went into eternal rest. Before his death, he said something that I would like to read out to you. The last words of Socrates. Well, the hour of departure has arrived, and we must each go our ways. I to die, and you to live. Which is better? Only the gods know. With these words, he took the drink and died. Okay, these things are discussed in this particular book, the Apology. Okay. Next one is the Phaedo. The Phaedo. This is one of the best known dialogues of Plato. I won't spend much time. It recounts the events and conversations that occurred on the day Socrates was put to death. All the thoughts, some thoughts are shared between Socrates, Plato, and other followers, and those thoughts of Socrates, the last words of of Socrates are recorded here. The philosophical subject of the dialogue is the immortality of the soul. So that was the theme discussed there. The symposium is another important word. It actually depicts the extemporaneous speeches of some notable men attending a banquet. There was a banquet, a party, and some people, very notable, very honorable people, came up and talked on certain topics of their interest. Okay. And the men who gave these extemporaneous speeches were one, Socrates, another one, Alcibiades, and the famous playwright. We will be seeing him in my next video, Aristophanes. Okay. It is a very skilled way of putting together various views and ideas about the nature of love. What is love? That is the theme. Now we come to Aristotle, Plato's most brilliant student. Okay. And Plato himself was the student of Socrates. So these are the three great philosophers from the ancient Greek world. Okay. He was the greatest, no doubt. Aristotle was the greatest of all of them. And as you know, he tutored Alexander the Great. In some exams, this question is asked. Okay. In 335 BCE, he founded his own institute known as Lyceum in Athens. It was a school for philosophy or a college, whatever you call. And all these students would go there and learn from Aristotle. Okay. This is important for us. Poetics. From our point of view, for our interest, poetics is very important. Why? Because first of all, it was written in 26 books, not down from the examination point of view. Now, it is considered the earliest dramatic theory. And he discusses a lot of things related to literary theory. Let us see. Now, you must understand, when Aristotle talks about poetry, it's not just poems. It includes everything, even drama, tragedy, comedy, epic, all sorts of creative writings he called poetry. Okay. Aristotle defines poetry as a medium of imitation. He agreed with his master Plato that poetry is indeed an imitation of reality. But he disagreed with Plato on the point that poets must be banished from the ideal society. Why? According to Aristotle, the purpose of poetry is to entertain, to provide pleasure to the readers, not preaching moral values. So, according to Aristotle, it was not the function of poetry to teach morality. But for Plato, that was the most important thing. So, he really disagreed with his master, Plato, on this point. Okay. So, this is here. He examines poetry as a piece of art, not as a book of preaching or teaching. Now, hence he does not agree with Plato. Okay, we proceed. This is, you can read and print out the notes. As I already said, it's a repetition. The end, the final goal of poetry is to please, not to teach. Now, according to Aristotle, this is the most. I am skipping some things because I have to keep to the time. You can read and take out notes, not very important. That which is important for your examination, I will be telling you as I continue. This is important. According to Aristotle, the soul of tragedy is the plot. Many times this was asked. And tragedy is superior to epic. Note down. The soul of tragedy is the plot. And tragedy is superior to epic. Okay. Now, these 6 elements are important. According to Aristotle, tragedy has 6 elements. What are they? Mythos means plot. Ethos means character. Dianoia. Dianoia means the theme, the thoughts expressed by the writer in the text. And lexis means diction or language used. And melos means music. Okay, those days there was chorus. Okay. Then opsis means spectacle, means how this is presented on the stage, the costumes, then the makeup, and all the other technical things used on the stage to present the play. These are the 6 elements. Please note down. Then again, Aristotle spoke about 3 unities. You know that, probably all of you know. This is the unity of action, unity of place, and unity of time. Shakespeare was accused of not observing all these unities. But Dr. Johnson defended Shakespeare in his preface to what you call William Shakespeare. We will see that later on. Now, again, this is important from the examination point of view. What are the qualities of a tragic hero? Or who is a tragic hero? A tragic hero, according to Aristotle, is one who is very noble, who has all the noble qualities, but with one flaw, one defect, which brings him down, which causes his downfall. Such a character is a tragic hero, one who has all the noble qualities, but one flaw, which brings him down. Such a character is known as a tragic hero. Okay. Now, his another important work, just I mentioned it. It is Nicomachean Ethics. Nicomachean Ethics. In this, he examines the nature of happiness, how happiness can be achieved. Okay. He argues that happiness lies in the activity of the soul in accordance with virtue. If you are a virtuous person, if you have a virtuous soul, means a very good heart, then you are a good person and you enjoy a lot of happiness in your life, in your mind. That's all. There are 2 types of virtues according to Aristotle. What are they? 1, moral virtues. They are courage, generosity, and justice. Another one, intellectual virtues. What are they? Knowledge, wisdom, and insight. Just keep these things in mind. Maybe a question asked, you don't know. Now, this is very important. Important terms from poetics. What are those terms? Some of these terms you are familiar, other terms you may not be. So, first one, mythos. This is the plot of a play, plot of a tragedy. Means the story. Now, some students may ask, what is the difference between plot and story? There is a difference, please. It is not the same. I'll give an example. The king died, and then the queen died of grief. This is plot. There will be a cause, reason for the event. Look at this sentence. The king died. And then after some years, the queen died. This is story. You are simply putting together a series of events without showing their relationship. So a plot is interrelated. It has got causes and the effects. It must have a cause. The death of the queen was caused by grief. because grieve over her husband's death. So that is plot. Okay. Now, next one is mimesis. Mimesis, it means imitation. Imitation of situations from the real world. A novel is that. It's an imitation of real life that is observed by the novelist or a poet or a dramatist. Next one is hematia. Hematia is a tragic flaw. A tragic flaw, one defect in the protagonist, in the tragic hero. Okay. Another one, anagnorisis. What is this? It is the recognition or discovery of an error on the part of the hero. The hero suddenly realizes or he discovers that there is a mistake on his side. Okay, next one, catharsis. This all of you know what this catharsis is. It is the process of letting out all the pent-up feelings, okay, of fear, of sadness, of pity, etc. And then the audience, just very cry, and then they feel relaxed. This is exactly a catharsis, a purging of these feelings of pity, fear, and those emotions. Okay, it is a purification or the release of built-up emotional energy, such as emotions of fear, pity, sadness, which brings about a kind of psychological relief. If you watch certain movies, like I remember long ago I watched a movie in Malayalam. What is that? Agashadut. Which really made me, probably after many years, tears welled up in my eyes when I saw those children were being adopted by various people. Okay, so then after that, that cry, the audience feel very relaxed and relieved. That is known as catharsis. Okay, then peripetia. It is a reversal, either from good or bad. Okay, either from good to bad or from bad to good. That is known as peripetia. As the play progresses, there may be a change. Everything moving from good to bad, or bad things happening. Suddenly there is a movement from bad things to good. Okay. Disease. It is all the actions in a tragedy leading up to the climax. All the actions in the play leading up to the climax. Okay, together called disease. Lucis, it is what? It is all the actions from the climax onwards. Disease, actions leading to the climax. Lucis, actions from the climax onwards. Then, another important thing is denouement. Its pronunciation is denouement. It is the end of a play in which everything is explained or settled. Okay. Next, this word is difficult to pronounce. The pronunciation of the word is like this: Deus ex machina. Deus ex machina means it is the intervention of an unexpected character or event in a play to resolve the problem, which Aristotle didn't like at all. An external character is suddenly introduced in the play in order to bring about a solution. Okay, that Aristotle didn't like. Now, next one. This is called what is called dithyram. Dithyram pronunciation. It means a chorus song dedicated to the god Dionysus. Dionysus, his Roman name is Bacchus, god of wine. Okay. Next is pathos. It is nothing but the power of a writer's description, the power to use certain words in order to bring about great feelings, great emotions in the readers. That's known as pathos. Okay. And such powerful expressions can bring about catharsis. So if there is pathos, beautiful, elegant description that will really move you, that will stir your emotions, then there will be catharsis. This is known as pathos. I'll give an example from this is from the poem Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. Let's just have a quick look. For the moon, because Annabel Lee has died now, the speaker's beloved, and he is so sad, and how the sadness is expressed. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee, and the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so, all the night time, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride. In her sepulchre, there by the sea, in her tomb by the surrounding sea. These words bring about a kind of, pathos in the reader. Next one. Pathos. What is pathos? That is very interesting. Very often this is asked in various exams. The word was first used by Alexander Pope. It is an abrupt, sudden change from the majestic and dignified and noble to something very silly, to something very commonplace. I'll give an example. Describing a lady. Look at this one. Her hair was finely curled. Her cheeks were lined with rose. Rose is a kind of, powder. It's a kind of cream used to apply on the cheeks and on the lips to make a person more handsome or more beautiful. I think usually women use rose. Okay, once again. Her hair was finely curled. Her cheeks were lined with rose, and her dress was a flowing green and blue, which made her look rather like a tired old peacock. Oh my God. Beautiful descriptions, praising and ending with just the opposite. This is known as pathos. Now, telos, it means the end or purpose. The inherent purpose of anything in this universe. What is the purpose of a thing? Okay? Why does it exist? What does it exist for? So this is known as telos. Now, this is the end of the lesson. This is a fun phrase. Aristotle spent his final hour of life doing what he loved most, arguing with his wife. Okay. Some scholars have just come up with some fun. Okay. These are the words of Socrates, and we end the lesson with these words. Unexamined life is not worth living. That means just accepting things, accepting traditions, accepting beliefs, superstitions, without critically examining them, without applying the power of our mind to them, is a meaningless way of living. Okay then, I think that's all about the Greek philosophers. Now you understand why Plato and why Aristotle are important from our literature study point of view. Because Plato's Republic talks about poets, and books 3 and 10, where in book 10 he wants the poets to be banished from his ideal state. Then in Aristotle's Poetics, as we have seen, a lot of terms are explained. Please be familiar with those terms. In my next lesson, I will be talking about Greek literary figures. Greek literary figures. These are philosophers. Now, as a preparation, you must go back and watch Greek mythology, Greek gods and goddesses, and Greek heroes, because almost all those writers I am going to discuss in my next lesson, and in the text you will find allusions to all of them. So if you know them, if you familiarize them with yourself, then it will be very interesting and easy to understand. Till then, take care, stay happy and healthy.